Hello and welcome to the Cool Kids once again for our live review and spoiler discussion to Ridley Scott's long-awaited sequel to his Sword and Sandals epic masterpiece, Gladiator. So here we have the sequel, Gladiator II. Does it live up to the original? Is this a satisfying sequel? Is it good enough? Does it honor the original? Let's find out. Since I traditionally go last, I will exercise my prerogative as host, and as your curmudgeonly host, Whiskiest Jonius, and go last. So I will pass the buck to my buddy right here, my metalhead buddy, Cinematic Sterling. Take us away.
Oh, all right then. Like many, I think Gladiator is. There we go. Like many, I think Gladiator, the first Gladiator, is a fantastic movie, and it's one of Ridley Scott's best. It's a great revenge story with fantastic acting, visuals, score, and has memorable characters. When Ridley Scott announced he was going to be making a sequel to his Oscar-winning Sword and Sandals epic, I was pretty skeptical. Scott has been pretty hit and miss for years, and who knows if he will be able to capture the magic he did with that first movie. This could be another soulless sequel, requel, raking in on the nostalgia bucks. Who the hell knows? Yesterday, I decided to take part in the Glicked phenomenon, watch Wicked and this as a double feature. I started with Wicked, more on that one soon. And then I watched this. After seeing it, I was entertained. But I didn't think it was as great as the first one, and I did think it was a little unnecessary. Acting all around is great, really good. Especially from Paul Mescal. I've heard people complain about him, like his performance in this movie. I don't see it. I thought he did a really good job. I really liked Pedro Pascal. It was great seeing Connie Nielsen. And Denzel Washington, he is absolutely the standout as Macronus. I thought the movie did a good job showing the difference between Maximus and Lucius, whereas Maximus is a born leader, and he's a lot more subtle with his emotions, whereas Lucius is a little bit more inexperienced, and he has to slowly rise to become that leader. And he's also a lot more angry. Action scenes are all intense, and they're a blast to watch. There's a lot of funny moments, especially when one of the twin emperors gives a fucking monkey a high spot in the Empire. Score is beautiful. It's shot well, and finally, I loved the opening credits of this movie. It was that paintbrush style was just recap of the first movie was just gorgeous to look at. Now, why don't I love this as much as the first movie? It's the same. It's the same as the first one. Especially with how it starts. Someone's loved one is killed by the Romans. He ends up becoming a slave. Then he ends up becoming a gladiator, and gets his revenge. But I really wasn't invested in this revenge as much as I was in Maximus getting his revenge on Commodus. I just felt Maximus was just a better, well-written character, and Commodus was easily the superior antagonist. The villains were fun. Aside from Denzel Washington, the two twin empires, they're not really that memorable. And I thought the CGI was also the CGI also looked pretty bad. On whether it's the baboons, the rhino, or the shark, the CGI sharks swimming in the CGI water, it looked pretty fake. But is it better than the first one? Gladiator 2 was still an enjoyable watch. I wish the effects were better and it didn't repeat so many beats from the first movie and did a little bit more to stand on its own. But still has great acting, fight scenes, score, and a definitive ending. I'd say give us a watch on a matinee if you're a fan of the first one. However, Ridley, why did you announce a third movie, Ridley? There doesn't need to be a third one. And with that, I give it a 7 out of 10.
Oops, sorry. All right, now let's move on to our next host. Not host, but I mean, let's move on to our next review with the right dude. Not
Actually,
the, dude.
the next host. You didn't know that? Are you not entertained?
No,
All right,
I am your curmudgeonly host. That would be me. You are the Southern weeb. I'm just your everyone's favorite curmudgeon.
All right. Anyway, jokes aside. So I was again. I was too lazy to write a review, so I'm just gonna say fuck it and wing it. Gladiator 2. So let me start by saying that I love the first Gladiator. In fact, I watched it a few days, I think about a week ago, because my younger brother hadn't seen the first one, so we wanted to watch it. And it still really holds up. You know, Russell Crowe, he does a phenomenal job. The action scenes were really awesome. The score, the sets, just the story, like everything was really great about that movie. When the sequel was announced, I was pretty skeptical, because I kept thinking that it just seemed like a pointless cash grab. It's like, why are we doing a sequel to Gladiator? It doesn't need to be. Just like any other first thoughts when there's like a great standalone film that gets a sequel. So, but you know what? I was thinking to myself, Ridley Scott's going to be involved. I'll give it a chance. And I know I went to see this in IMAX with both my brother and with the curmudgeon host up here. And we saw it in IMAX earlier today, and it was really good. So I'll say it's damn good. Maybe not as much as the first one. I do have my problems with it, but I would say it was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. So the acting all around is solid. Paul Mescal, he does a great job, and I wouldn't be surprised if he actually gets a best actor nomination. I mean, this would be his like second time getting a best actor nomination, I think, because the first time was like After Sun. But I digress. Pedro Pascal does really good, even though his screen time was a little limited. Denzel Washington kicks ass. You know, the score is wonderful. I love I do agree with Devin. It's like the Revenge doesn't work as strong with this one, but I mean it still works well enough. The action scenes are a lot of fun. I would probably say maybe the action scenes might even be a little bit better here than in the first one. So, and I love the sets and I love the production that it gives. So, if I do have any problems with it, I would say, yeah, it kind of rehashes some parts, but that's only like in the beginning. So it seems like it does start to re-enter familiar territory, but I mean, it quickly bounced back. So it wasn't like a carbon copy, you know. It was only like maybe a little bit at the beginning, but then it's like by the time we get the second act, that's second or third act, that's when things started to become a little different, you know. And also the CGI, could have been a lot better. So maybe, especially with like either the baboon dog hybrids or something, or and the CGI sharks, they looked off for me. So I will give it that. So and I felt like maybe Pedro Pascal could have used a little bit more screen time, but that one's probably more of a nitpick than anything. The two emperors, I mean, they're the two twin emperors. They're okay, but I still would prefer Joaquin Phoenix from the first one a little bit more. So, but I mean, I get their purpose, but overall, I would say this was, while not as strong as the first one, I would say that this was still a fun time. So, if you want something fun to watch, if you're a fan of the first Gladiator, I would say give this a watch. And my score would be a 8 out of 10. So I don't know if Mark. Oh, okay, there we go.
Right. Sorry about that, Devin. I forgot to put your score up there. This was Devin's score, everyone. Anyway, and this is the right dude score. Anyway, sorry, messing up as your host. And now for the one and only Geek Informant. John, take us away.
Oh, I thought Rome was next, but that's okay. Rome will be last before you because it makes sense. Because Rome, I don't know. I'll go. It's fine. Yeah, I'm doing.
Well, you want Rome to go next?
No, it's fine. I have my review. I'm good.
Okay, all right.
So, the Gladiator 2, like, I kind of agree with everyone else. Like, I was just expecting like a crappier yet schlockier version of the first one. Like, I just kind of expected, oh, okay, it'll be a fun time. But like, I was shocked with how fucking great this was. Like, it's genuinely a great movie. And personally, I don't think it's a remake of the original or just the first one again. It does new and interesting things that makes it feel different from its predecessor, but also keeps the core of what made the movie great to begin with. Maybe the exception of like the first half hour, maybe, but like once it goes on from there, it diverges. Like you have the stuff with the insurrection, you have the stuff with like all the other side characters, you have the stuff with Denzel Washington and Connie Nielsen, Pedro Pascal. Like you have all these other like tidbits here and there that go off on their own like tangents that make it feel different. And it succeeds the original. It's just not doing it again. Yeah, it starts off kind of that way, especially with his wife dying and whatnot. And probably you could have done without that. But I think, but I still think it did enough different that it's not just like a lazy retread or whatever. I thought the cast was phenomenal. I thought Paul Mescal was very good. I know he's like kind of one of those like up and coming stars. So I'm glad that, he finally got like this big starring vehicle. I mean, Denzel Washington said in like every interview, like this kid's fucking going places, man. Like he's going to be the next big name. So I'm like, I believe it with how he was here. I don't know if he's Russell Crowe levels, but he was great here. Denzel Washington is always phenomenal. Derek Jacobi, even though he wasn't in it very much, phenomenal. Connie Nielsen, phenomenal. Pedro Pascal, phenomenal. Like everybody was fucking phenomenal here. Joseph Quinn was absolutely excellent. Dude's having a great year. And unfortunately, he has to shoot himself in the foot next year because he fucking, went to fucking Marvel. Poor guy. We lost another one, boys. Anyway, but the only one I didn't really care for was the other emperor. I don't know. What was it? Fred Hetchinger?
Yeah,
Fred Hetchinger. I don't know if that's
he was Caracalla.
I found him to not be very good. I thought he was like okay, but it's like when you're surrounded by this much talent, especially like the little bits of your performance that aren't as good will be way more noticeable when you're up against Academy Award winning and nominated actors. The faults in your performance are definitely going to bleed through. And even if you have like a newer name like Paul Mescal, who did an insanely good job, you still had that, even someone who wasn't like a name like Washington or Nielsen or Jacoby, however you fucking pronounce it. So I think he, could have been a lot better. And I feel like he was like kind of awkward, a little wooden, a little stilted at points. He was okay. It's just like the performance seemed worse because of the amount of talent that surrounded him. And, you had Peter Mensa, Rory McGann, the bald guy who was in that episode of Doctor Who about the Oods Planet of the Oods, I think it was. I'm like, where the fuck do I know? Like, I'm like, oh my god, he was in a Doctor Who episode. So yeah. And speaking of, Matt Lucas was also in this. He was kind of funny. Like, he was the guy who, announced the names and whatnot, who told the band. I thought that he was like kind of funny. But yeah, everyone I thought did a really good job. And with the exception of Hetchinger, I thought he could have been a lot better. But despite this, the cast did a phenomenal job. I thought the action scenes were really good. Some of them were a little bit haphazard, but for the most part, I thought the action was very well choreographed and were well shot, well edited. I thought the cinematography was really good. I thought it was well written. I know, like, a lot of people are gonna say, like, oh, it's just the remake of the first one. I don't think so. I thought, I really liked how, like, I know this is gonna sound like an insult, but it's not. I like how, like, complicated it felt. Like, the first one was very much, it's a revenge story, and it stayed that way, which is not bad. It's simple. I like simple movies, and that was a simple movie, and it was this grandiose kind of thing, and it worked. This one, it kind of started that way, but then it like turned left. It was like, oh no, we have like this whole thing about taking back the power from these two emperors and how they're like ruining Rome, and we gotta like stop them. And then you have the stuff with like the character driven stuff with like him remembering his past and him remembering like how it became this way, his relationship with his mother, his relationship with all the other, slaves and gladiators. So I feel like there was a little bit more to it in this movie. Not saying like in terms of like quality, I still think the first one is better, but I still think that there was like a lot like more like just like it felt like it had a little bit more depth. Doesn't make it a better movie. I just think that there was more to it, and I really liked that as well. I really liked that opening sequence with the opening credits. That was easily the best part of the movie, and I'm not saying that as like a fault towards the movie. It was just like I love the music. By the way, the music by Gregson Williams was fucking amazing. I thought just the opening, the airbrush sequence. I thought it was the paintbrush sequence. I thought it was great, and it kind of worked going from the Scott-free logo, which kind of has that same style, into the opening credits. I'm like, oh, that's kind of a nice transition. I thought that kind of worked. But yeah, the paintbrush opening credits was amazing. I thought that was so good. And yeah, as I said, the music was excellent. But if I had anything bad to say about it, it started off kind of haphazard a little bit too like all over the place, but even then it's quickly got going. And then on top of the fact, I thought the pacing in the second half was a little bit awkward. Like you kind of felt the running time after a while, and but it picked up in the third act. So I'm like, okay, like the second act, the second part of the second act was a little rough, but like outside that, I still thought like I was still engaged. It was just like I checked my watch a couple times. I was like, all right, let's kind of move past this a little bit. But even then, I still thought it was very well done. And as I said, the first act is a little bit too samey as the first one. It luckily diverges, but it still felt like, oh, another guy who his wife gets killed. Like, come on, like you could have done something a little bit extra to make it like different to start the revenge and all that. But even then, I don't think it was like, again, it's not a remake or anything, so I thought it worked. But yeah, this was, I wouldn't say a major surprise, but it's probably the biggest surprise in a while. Like I didn't expect this to be as great. Like I expected like maybe like a 6.5 or a 7, because it's a movie that was made like a quarter of a century after the first one. It's it's about about his son. He needs revenge again. But the way that Ridley Scott made it work, I think it was excellent. And again, I'm one of the few that thought Napoleon was really good too. So I think Ridley Scott's been, not hitting him out of the park, but I would say he's been getting a few doubles. Like maybe not like Alien, Blade Runner, original Gladiator level home runs, but like he's getting some doubles, maybe a triple, but like nothing. He hasn't brought it home just yet, but I still think he's doing a really good job. So with that, I give Gladiator 2 Electric Boogaloo an 8 out of 10. I thought it was very, very good and very, very surprising. So go check it out, guys. Oh.
All right. Thank you very much, John. And last, well, not last, but least before you get to me, we have the man who was not built to today, Rome's.
Nope, never was.
Go ahead, my man.
So I rewatched the first one a few days before I was seeing the sequel. Obviously the first one's a classic. I think it's one of the most, we're gonna say what category we want to put, like most manliest movies out there. Gladiator's up there as in those kind of category. With this movie, I really liked how they really did a good job connecting the original to the sequel, with the sequel to the original. Just some of the story threads to the original with this one, with Lucius and his story. It worked really. Oh shoot. Okay, never mind. My screen went black for a second. It worked really well. So I thought that was great. I thought the movie was very entertaining. I thought all the supporting actors from Denzel Washington, he was a fun villain throughout the movie. I thought Pedro Pascal was good, and he fit very well in the world of Gladiator by Ridley Scott. I thought Connie Nielsen's return as Lucilla stole a lot of the scenes, with Pedro, with Denzel, even with Paul. She really outperformed a lot of the other actors, and I think because of the character that we're familiar with in the first one, the investment there, she really outshined a lot of people in this movie. The negatives I gotta say was Paul Mescal. I'm sure he's a good actor, but I think not many people know who he is, and this being his first big budget lead acting role, I don't think he was ready for it. There are moments in that first half of this movie where it's just really hard to get into because he just doesn't have that presence as a lead actor should have, and I think that was a miscast by Ridley to cast him in this movie. I don't think he was ready for that next tier level. He did get better. I thought his scenes with Connie Nielsen really helped elevated his performance. Really kind of brought more of like, okay, that is Lucius. We can kind of get more in. I can get more into his story and just his performance in the second half of the movie. I thought this movie had a Ryan Coogler's Creed and a Spartacus series type kind of vibe with. There's moments in this movie where I'm thinking of Spartacus, the TV show, where one scene, Lucius shoots the arrow, tries to kill one of the twins, and the next thing everybody's trying to back him up and saying it was me who killed everybody. I thought that was like a Spartacus kind of moment as well. I thought the twins, I thought Joseph Quinn was surprisingly better than I thought he was going to be, and I thought the other actor, Fred Henchinger, I'm not too familiar with who he is, but I thought he overacted his role in this movie. It just felt like he was just being way over the top, way just too much, kind of too cartoonish for me. Obviously, it was made to be the comedic jokes around Denzel and stuff like that, but he didn't really work well in this movie at all. And nothing against him. I just think that he just overacted as well. But another negative I gotta say, it's like everybody else was saying, was the CGI animals. I thought, for a budget of $250 million or $300 million, you would think you would get a better CGI looking animals. Instead, you just got a lot of like just recognizable CGI, and just especially the scenes with the monkeys and the shark scene, and the second half of this movie, I thought Ridley Scott was just like, fuck it, it's a popcorn movie. Let's just throw a lot of like crazy stuff in here. And it was still entertaining. I had a really good time with the action beats in this. There was some really good fighting scenes, and I thought that was great as well. And I thought overall this movie was a solid sequel to the first one. I think it's going to be a lot harder for a lot of people to see this movie and not compare it to the first one. I did a good job not comparing it to the first one, because I knew going in this there's not going to be a Russell Crowe or Joaquin Phoenix like performance in this. You're not going to get that with this movie. What you're going to get is a solid story that connects to the original, and some good action beats, some good moments with the supporting cast, and it does end on a really good note and a strong act 3. In my opinion, this is definitely worth watching in theaters. Ridley Scott did a good job with this movie. Not great, but it was a good a good movie to go see in theaters, and it is a good popcorn movie to go see, to take your friends or girlfriends, whatever, to see in the theaters. So my score is a 7 out of 3. I mean 7 out of 10. I'm all over the place today.
Damn, 7 out of 3. Shit, that must be a really great movie. All right, guys, and last but not least, since I do love to go last, I do love to steal the show. I do love to wrap things up. The long-awaited sequel to Ridley Scott's Sword and Sandals epic is finally here. It's not a masterpiece like the original, but it's still a highly entertaining and satisfying film. Having been sent into exile as a child for his own protection by his mother Lucilla, played by Connie Nielsen, Lucius, played by Paul Mescal, has become an embittered enemy of Rome, fighting alongside the Numidians in their unsuccessful attempt to fend off Roman conquest under the leadership of General Marcus Acacius. His enmity only grows when his beloved wife Arishat, played by Yuval Gonin, dies during the battle. He is enslaved with the rest of the captives and taken to Rome, now under the rule of the mad emperors Geta, played by Joseph Quinn, and Caracalla, played by Fred Hetchinger. He is sold to the scheming Macrinus, played by Denzel Washington, who offers him a chance for revenge, using him for his machinations to rise to power and bring down Rome. The film does pretty much everything a good sequel is supposed to do. That is, it honors the original and makes everything bigger and better. Instead of a battle in the forest in Germania, we get not one but two naval battles. One in assault on the walls of Numidia in North Africa, and the other in the freaking Colosseum of all places, which yes did happen, although the sharks were a Ridley Scott special. So special. So still a lot of fun though to see them. Rather than one mad emperor, we get two, specifically the infamous Geta and Caracalla, although they will scarcely be recognizable to history buffs. Instead of just tigers like the original, we get baboons, a rhinoceros, and the aforementioned sharks. Despite some similar beats as the original, however, this film does manage to forge, and I was going to say, actually, at the same time, there is a lot that is brought back from the original. In fact, the entire opening credits is like an animated sequence recounting or very briefly summarizing the whole original film. Bit weird, but I think it works for what it is. And we also get plenty of references to the original, and including whole lines lifted. But it does make sense in the sense that there would be, because Maximus has become a legend by this time. Maximus is a legend, so it does make sense. I mean, just like he is quoted by one of the doctors of the doctor of the gladiators, and he said, well, I don't know, but it's on the wall of that one gladiator back there who died. So I mean, despite some similar beats as the original, however, this film does manage to forge an identity of its own. Paul Mescal's Lucius lacks the charisma of Russell Crowe's Maximus, but at least part of that is by design, as Lucius is not a general, not to mention younger and more raw. He's also a lot angrier. He's also a whole lot angrier, whereas Maximus was more self-controlled, had more of the self-control and military bearing and discipline of a soldier. Lucius is wilder. Lucius is bitter. He's a force of nature, more akin to a whirlwind, reflecting of his anger. He's not the trained fighter. In fact, we see at the end, rather than inspiring soldiers and gladiators to fight him in a battle against Rome, this guy starts a fucking riot. So, I mean, this guy incites a fucking riot. So, I mean, which is reflective of the fact that he is kind of wilder and angrier. I do love the riot scene, by the way, toward the end. But he's also not the trained fighter his cinematic father was, but he's very tough and raw. He seems to take more damage. He makes mistakes, but at the same time, he's very tough. Very tough. And he's kind of the guy that kind of hangs in there and just wind up winning at the end. He's very resourceful, too, as a fighter. Whereas Commodus provided the focus for Maximus's quest for vengeance. Lucius's opponent, Pedro Pascal's General Acacius, is much more sympathetic. Not to mention, he's yet another soldier trying to save Rome. He is more akin to Maximus than to Commodus. But speaking of Rome, the city itself has a very different look this time, appearing far less glamorous and a lot dirtier. It's also more decadent. We see more of the wild party. We see some of the wild parties of that Rome was known for. And this is an apt reflection of the fact that the corruption, rot, and social decay have set in. So, the cinematography is a big plus in this film. It's very well done. Another major difference is the more convoluted narrative, and convoluted not necessarily in a bad way. The real villain in this film was not the twin emperors, Gaeta and Caracalla, as one would expect, but rather Macrinus, who was revealed to have been the victim of yet another of Rome's conquest, who was enslaved under Marcus Aurelius, now he wants power. He's plotting for power and revenge. He ultimately wants to bring down Rome. How do you match the legendary screen presence of Joaquin Phoenix's legendary performance from the first film? Why you turn over the reins to none other than fucking Denzel Washington and let him just go off and go absolute ham and just go absolutely nuts. And he is absolutely fantastic in this film. He steals the show in every scene he's in. He is just deliciously evil. And the thing is, he's actually a much more sympathetic villain, even because the fact that he was a former slave kind of makes it a little understandable why he would want such a thing. So he has a good point, especially when he says, your father says to Lucilla, your father's dream, it was bullshit. So that was just a foolish dream of an old man. This is reality. The reality is nothing succeeds like power, So, power is the real reality, and that requires might. Might makes right, basically, would be Macrinus's philosophy. So, and Denzel Washington is really the star of this show. If Paul Mescal, kind of pales in comparison, I don't think that's necessarily a reflection of his performance, because I think he does very good. Because quite frankly, you could say the same thing about Russell Crowe's performance in the original, that he was overshadowed a bit by Joaquin Phoenix, although he still was outstanding in the film. But the flip side of Macrinus getting so much attention is that the dual emperors, Gaeta and Caracalla, are hardly explored. In his quest to make Macrinus the smartest guy in the room, the duo has been neutered, particularly Fred Hetchinger's Caracalla, a man more evil in real life than Commodus was, but here is a little more than a parody of a syphilitic moron. They're more useful idiots than anything. And while it's understandable why he did that, it's understandable why Ridley Scott did this, because, quite frankly, if he had eliminated the character Macrinus and just had Gaeta and Caracalla, or just Caracalla, probably would have been a better choice, to be the emperors, it literally would have been just the first film over again. So then I think that criticism that this is just the first film all over again would have carried more weight, I think. But since he made it a little more complicated, I think this is part of the problem. There's not one villain for people to latch on to. Macrinus is, yes, he's definitely a villain, but he's a more sympathetic one. Pedro Pascal's character, Acacius, he's literally not a villain. He's just, the focus of Lucius's anger because he happened to be the general in the battle that, his wife died at. So, but even though he was just a soldier, he's just doing his job and he doesn't even agree with any of this. So, but, and Gaeta and Caracalla just are hardly explored, as I said. But I do think that he could have put a little more into it, though. I do think he could have put a little more into it. He literally has Macrinus. He literally takes away Caracalla's agency. In real life, Caracalla killed his brother in their mother's arms, and they were not twins in real life either. They were a year apart. Caracalla was older, and they did not get along in real life. I really wanted to see that. I was hoping to see how they would not get along. I didn't think they would. I thought they would. I really expect to, because based on the trailers, it seemed that they did get along in the film. And obviously they did. But in real life, they did not get along at all. They literally had the palace split so they would not have to encounter one another. So yeah, they did not get along at all. And Caracalla killed his brother in their mother's arms, and it took their mother, Julia Domna, a long time to forgive him. But speaking of which, she was eliminated, and Julia Domna, another famous woman from Roman history, was eliminated, something history buffs will bemoan, but it's honestly understandable why he did this, because it would have made an already complicated narrative a little too complicated. You can argue that this narrative was already too convoluted. I don't think it was. I rather enjoyed it like it is. I like a little that he made a little more complicated, not so simple as like the first one. But I mean, it's already convoluted, so I mean, it's going to be even more so if you add in Julia Domna. And besides, Lucilla serves much the same function either way. In the real life, Lucilla actually did die after trying to overthrow the emperors. So, and she was their aunt in real life, I do believe. I may have that wrong. So, but either way, I still highly enjoyed the film. I'm not one to harp on historical accuracy in films, because I mean, because I'm not one to harp on historical accuracy in films, because I just don't expect it. It's art, not history. This is art, not history. And even if you look at paintings that reflect history, like we do not have a single portrait of Christopher Columbus. That may seem odd. You may say, hey, Whiskey Jones, KitchenAid Whiskey Jones, I've seen plenty of them. No, you haven't. You've seen paintings made centuries after the man died. Years after the man died. The man never sat for a self-portrait. So we have no earthly idea how he looked like, what he looked like. So that's one. Washington crossing the Delaware. George Washington would not have been standing in the damn boat crossing over to the side of the enemy, where everybody could fucking see him and just shoot him. He would have been, besides, it was in the middle of the night and it was fucking freezing cold. His ass would have been sitting in the boat huddled together with the rest of them. No, he would not have been standing there like a big fucking superhero. No. The reality is always different. But again, this is art, not history. And as art, I highly enjoyed the film. The action scenes were bigger and better. I thought the story worked. I liked that this was more about Lucius coming to terms with his past and getting over his anger. Because quite frankly, the reason she sent him away was perfectly understandable. He was the last heir. He was the heir to the throne. And yes, that would have made him a target. They would not have given a damn that he was a kid. So, I did like, I guess I mentioned, so that was understandable. And either way, let me stop rambling now. And my final score is an 8.5 out of 10. So I was going to rate it 4.5 stars at first. I knocked it down to half to 4. 4 stars feels more appropriate.
Gotcha.
For this.
All right.
But I did give it an 8.5, an extra 8.5 for me. So,
Okay.
I have Zach's review.
Yeah. We got Zach's review.
Okay. All right.
Do you want to play it, Devin, or okay? I mean, I've got.
Yeah, I got
it. All right.
Oh, well, here I'll put.
All right. Zach just finished watching the movie. He is unable to join, but he did send a voice message giving his thoughts. So here is Zach's review of Gladiator II.
If you were to tell me this plot point on paper, focusing on the son of Maximus, and then all focusing on that legacy, I would have told you, okay, I would have to see the movie first in execution to see whether or not it would be necessary, but just on paper, okay. Given how much I really dig the first film, I was ready for that. But after seeing it, what I was not ready for was for all the sense of majesty, class, and emotional weight, everything that made the first film so powerful, to be damn near completely stripped away. Look, I was already concerned going into it that it was just going to be a retread of the first film. And to your credit, it doesn't. It's not like that the entire film. It does go in different directions. But outside of that, What I wasn't ready for was for it to embrace more of a dumb, fun tone. Again, stripping away all the sense of class, majesty, all that powerful emotional weight, the tone of the first one. So it makes it tricky. Because I would say that in a way, I enjoyed it overall. Like, the two things that I do think are on par with the first film are the performances and the action, despite how dumb fun it gets in certain areas. But outside of that, they could have scrapped this before shooting, and I wouldn't have shed a tear.
And he gives it a 5 out of 10.
Yeah, I saw that. So, I mean,
Should
I still think it's ironic that Zach, of all people, complains that this film was unnecessary when he's, talks about how much he loves Deadpool and Wolverine, or, as I like to call it, fan service, the movie. I mean, the whole movie was literally fucking fan service. I mean, come on.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't call Deadpool and Wolverine unnecessary, but
I wouldn't either.
I would absolutely agree. Like kills and ends, as we've stated multiple times on the stream.
I mean, I
Those are
just think
unnecessary.
Or even
and Toy Story 4.
I was gonna say Toy Story 4 was another one.
Yeah, I mean, but my thing is, I mean, when I say unnecessary, I mean in the sense that no film is necessary.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Exactly.
There's no
That's why
such
I
thing
never
as
use that
unnecessary.
bullshit anymore, because every movie
Thank
that
you.
has ever been made is unnecessary. The entire entertainment industry and that every piece of entertainment is unnecessary. That's why I don't like to use that. Oh, it's unnecessary. Everything is unnecessary.
Thank
Yeah.
you, my follicularly challenged fellow waistline challenged brother down here.
Well, honestly, I'm the way you're doing it, I'm more waistline challenged than you are, my friend. Like, that's
but I still got.
I'm not doing. I just ate a Blizzard before the stream. I am not. I had sour gummy worms while
Hey,
watching
look,
the movie.
I
I'm
would
not.
still not mind a blizzard if I could, but I mean, I just can't because I'm diabetic. So, I mean, but yeah, I mean, I agree completely. I just don't like the criticism that the film is unnecessary, because it's like, I mean,
You can say that for any movie.
No film is literally necessary. It's my strict sense.
Even you can even say that some of the greatest movies of all time, they're
Exactly.
unnecessary.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, look, but if we only live by what is necessary, we would still be fucking hunter gatherers. Okay, I mean, shit. It's because we do shit that we want. Not just what is necessary.
Exactly.
That we have, accomplished so much as a civilization. But anyway, as a species, rather. But
Yeah, I got you.
although civilization is arguably not much of an accomplishment. But anyway, Rome. One of the things I said is that I love the fact that the cinematography is so different in this.
Oh yeah,
Cinematography, like when they, I think,
the gritty look on it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I love how the fact when they first get to Rome in the original, it's this glorious city. It almost appeals silver. I mean, it's just so beautiful. It's just like Rome at its height, its golden age, because it reflects the fact that this was Rome at its height. This was the end of the age of the 5 good emperors, ending in Marcus Aurelius. So yeah, Rome was at its height, the height of its glory. Then, So also under Gaeta and Caracalla, you have right before the beginning of the tumultuous 3rd century there. So I mean,
Speaking of, apologies. It's been a while since I've seen the first one.
That's all right.
Who played Marcus Aurelius in the first one again? Like the grand.
Damn it.
Was it Oliver? Was that Oliver Reed, or am I thinking of somebody else?
No. Oliver Reed played the one who owned the Gladiators.
Yeah, that's what. Okay.
Yeah.
I totally forgot who
played.
Let me look.
It was Richard Harris.
Jesus! Yeah. How can I forget?
Yeah, it was Richard Harris. Yeah.
Yes, the one and only Richard Harris. I was glad to see Derek Jacobi back as Gracchus.
Yeah, that was nice to see, even though he didn't really do much, unfortunately.
He really didn't, and I wish I could see him do more. But,
what would you guys say was some of your favorite moments in the movie? So,
For me, it
Oh,
was anything with Connor Nielsen. I think her
Yeah.
scenes with Lucius was really good. The first one too,
Yeah,
when
it
they're
was.
just reconnecting and her just telling
oh
this,
yeah,
apologizing
yeah.
and just
brought
trying
a tear to
like,
my eye, man.
yeah,
Honestly.
It did.
that was a great emotional moment,
yeah.
mostly because of
That
her
was-
carrying that one.
Yeah, she's really great. I forgot.
Yeah.
I neglected to mention that she's really fucking great in this. I mean, just like always, man. You just
Yeah.
you take her for granted. She's just so
And
incredible.
yeah,
I mean,
and
I was like, "Fuck, you had to kill her off." Like, come on.
I know,
Yeah.
right? That was.
It did
that
make
was
sense though. I mean, it
Yeah.
it made yeah.
Yeah.
So I
But
mean,
still, it's just like that was like your big. I was our big connecting to the first movie, and
Yeah,
like
true.
just
Yeah.
I really wanted to see Jaimin Hansu back. I would love to have seen Juba back. I mean, shit, that would have been a nice connection to the first film. I thought, because I mean, somebody who actually, who we know from the first film, a beloved character from the first film.
Looks like Zach's in the comments.
Let's see. It's fair.
I mean, yeah.
But I mean, I still had fun with it though. I mean,
I expected. I don't know. Like, I just went in with like I wasn't like in low expectations. Like for Wicked, I have negative expectations. I don't give a fuck how many like 5-star reviews it gets. I'm not going in with the fucking. I don't expect a good movie. I don't. I'm sorry. I just don't. But with this, I expected like. Like I'll get like B movie schlock like at the very most, which isn't like bad. I enjoy that, but no, I actually got like a genuinely thought out, well written, intriguing movie. Like you know, I got something worth my while. Like it's not going to be on. I don't think it's going to be on my best of the year, but it's it's still. I'm glad I saw it, and I really liked. I still really enjoyed the film, but like I didn't expect like, wow, that was genuinely a great movie, like genuinely a great. So I'm a little. I wouldn't say I did in my review say very very surprised, but I was just being hyperbolic. I was just pretty surprised. I was like, okay, that's something. Yeah. That's something. Like, all right, cool.
Like I said the same thing, John. Like I just expected. Honestly, I'm like, look, like I told Rob in the theater when it started, I said, look, I just as long as this is good 3.5 or 4 stars, I'm going to be fucking happy. That's all I want.
I did like the scene. Oops, sorry, Mark. I was going to say another scene I liked was the scene between Pedro Pascal and Paul Mescal, where where they're about to fight each other. And
yes, that one. And it was
he's built with a vengeance, and then somehow he just
like he was he was told him to kill him, and he just said no.
Yeah, I thought that was
very powerful.
That was really,
I think, because it just like it. I don't know. It just again like Pedro Pascal. I don't think he was wasted here, but I don't know. Maybe he's just that good of an actor that I just want to see more.
He was really good,
and he gave a very good. So it's just like I know, like it's just like sometimes with certain actors, it's like, oh my god, we see them everywhere. But it's like when you see them deliver something so good, it's like, yeah, there's a fucking reason we see them everywhere. It's not like,
exactly
like just like like The Rock, who's just, blockbuster star who's has to force his ego into fucking everything. But I don't know, fucker probably died. But I don't know, it was 16 years later. I don't know, like people die. Like they don't live that long in Rome.
Probably don't want to be anywhere near fucking Rome. I mean, shit.
But
although I'm just glad that somebody agrees. I would love to have seen Juba, but I mean, it's fine.
Jaimin Hansu is such a fantastic actor. But yeah, with Pedro Pascal, it's just like I understand. I just realized both of them are good. Both him and Joseph Quinn are going to be in Fantastic Four next year. That's crazy.
They both died in this movie,
and they both died. But I just think
maybe that's career foreshadowing.
Like I know it's like, oh, we see Tom Holland everywhere, we see Timothée Chalamet everywhere, and all this other shit. And we see Pedro Pascal everywhere. But it's like the reason we see him everywhere is not just because that, like, oh, the people like it. It's just like he's just a fucking amazing fucking actor. Like he's like it just. I don't know. It's just like even when he's not like given a ton to do in this movie, he's just like so like. I don't know, like I can't even explain it. He's just like so like the stoicism he has, like even like with dealing with these batshit insane emperors who are fucking like screaming all over the place, his balls are just pure steel, man. Like he's just like, all right, fine. Like if you fucking torture me, don't fucking lecture me, you little prick. Like it's just like that level of like,
yes, my
don't
God,
fuck
you
with
don't
me
give a
right now.
fuck.
All right,
Okay.
like
John,
I love that about him.
John, I did think Joseph Quinn was wasted in this movie.
Okay.
Like he was just sitting down, had nothing to do.
I feel like
honestly,
they
they should have showed him. I would rather have him have played Caracalla and have him kill his brother, because Caracalla was, bigger like physically than Gaeta anyway. Caracalla was just like a big hulking dude, and I would rather have seen him than play Caracalla and just shown him actually killing his brother. At least you've got it film in the halfway through.
Yeah.
Then
I think
yeah,
I agree. It should have been reversed, especially the fact that he does kill him off and he does have the bigger role, especially when Hetchiger was not as good of an actor. Because Joseph Quinn, he was a little wasted, but the thing is, similar to Pedro Pascal, even with that, he still delivered a great performance, and he still showcased why, he's a rising star. And I think it did like give him, with what little he had, he still did a good job with it. So I'm not mad. It's just like, I'm just disappointed, Ridley. No, I'm just kidding. But I just think, I some people, I don't know if they were wasted, just like, because there's like the idea of like wasted, like J.K. Simmons in Red One or something. But it's just like, where like, I expected it, but even then it's just like, you see it wasted. So it's like, but I don't know if it's like, because there is the fine line of like, okay, are they actually wasted, or it's just like they give like such amazing performance that it's just like, I just want to see them throughout the whole, I just want to see just them throughout the whole movie. So there is like, I'm not saying you're like wrong for saying that they're wasted. Like I do kind of agree that they are a little wasted. It's just like, I don't know if it's like, oh, I just want to see like 2.5 hours of them. Like, I don't, or would have that been him too much? So I don't know. There's like a whole discussion in regards to wasted versus just wanting to see how amazing they are as actors. So there's something there to talk about. I don't know if we want to continue to talk about, but there's something there. And, but yeah, like, oh God, they're just both so good. Everyone did, outside of Hetchinger, everyone did such a superb job here, I think.
I don't even think Hetchinger honestly wasn't given much to do here, though, because I mean, he was just kind of there, literally just there, until it came time for the assassination, which it just kind of felt obligatory. So, I mean, go ahead, Rob.
Well, what? Oh, is it my turn to speak now? I'm kidding.
Shush, it's fine.
I'm kidding, dude. I'm just kidding. I mean, I'll say this: I also thought another part that was honestly pretty cool was the naval battles at the Coliseum and all. I remember like when I was there's something I know Mark already touched upon this on his review and all, but it's like I do remember taking like an art history class, and I remember they mentioned about like the aqueducts, pretty much using the aqueducts to flood the Coliseum and all, and they use it for those. Although, like when we were at the theater, it's like I was whispering into Mark, it's like, where the hell did they get the sharks from?
That's what I was thinking. I'm like, where did they get fucking sharks in? I'm like,
yeah. I mean, I was thinking of that too. It's like, how would they fucking get? I'm like, it doesn't matter. It's fucking Ridley Scott. So I mean, shit.
That's what I was saying.
He fucking shot the top of the pyramids.
I don't give a fuck. We got sharks in the Coliseum.
Well, I mean,
like we will have sharks with freaking laser guns.
Yes, exactly.
But I mean, it's like, look, it's like I said, he literally does the sequel thing. Everything's bigger and badder and bolder and better and everything. Instead of just tigers like last time, we get baboons, rhinoceros, and freaking sharks with freaking lasers.
That's their heads.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, he just goes bigger and bigger. So I mean, you could argue that maybe the narrative should have focused on Pedro Pascal's character, and you should have eliminated Macrinus. But then again, you literally just get the first film over again. If it's just yet another general rebelling against yet another emperor, so I mean, then it's literally is just the first film over again. Yeah. And this did try to do something different. I think it's the more the convoluted narrative than anything that gets people more than anything, because there's not one simple villain to latch onto. So, and as Zach said, how about no, you crazy Dutch bastard?
How about no?
Yep.
How about you?
Zach did raise a good point today. He just read the third film is in early development. Thoughts on where can it go from here?
I don't think there needs to be a third one.
I don't think so.
No.
Oh no, definitely not. I mean, you already told the story of Lucius and getting back to being a.
It's just.
Also-
I guess it all depends on how much of a hit this is going to be and how greedy Paramount is going to be, if they're going to be Warner Brothers all over again. You know.
Yeah, but I'm curious with how you guys interpret the ending, because my dad thought he died, but I don't think he died.
He didn't die.
No, he didn't.
Die. I didn't think he died.
He
but my
clearly
dad's like, oh,
lived.
he dies because he died, because you see like him in the wheat, but it's like, well, that was supposed to be like Maximus. That was supposed to be
Maximus.
Yeah.
him like calling to his father. Like that was, you know.
It was a
Did
weird
they-
ending.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good, man. I was just saying it's a weird ending.
It was kind of like artsy, like
Yeah.
the first one a little bit.
Yeah, my theater wasn't too happy. Well, I won't say happy, but they're confused by how that ending ended.
Yeah, I think it should have ended similar to the last couple movies I've seen, where they should have ended it like 10 seconds beforehand. Like they should have ended it with them going hi, 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 and then it cuts to black. I think that would have been a very powerful ending. I understand like they wanted to do something smaller, but I feel like it should have, it should have been like a very like that powerful, like everyone's like on his side, and plus if he did want to do a sequel, then it would have been a good like cliffhanger. But even then, even if they weren't doing that, it would have been a good like, okay, the age of prosperity, or an age of prosperity will come with Lucius as emperor, maybe.
Right.
So
Yeah.
What'd you think of like how they handle Maximus and how he's viewed as a legend in the Coliseum? I thought that was pretty cool.
yeah, I thought that was
I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah.
I mean, he fought the emperor.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So I mean,
Yeah, that didn't bother me.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, because exactly,
Yeah.
because it does reflect the fact again that Rome was not saved by his sacrifice. He did fight to try to save Rome, but at the same time, it's like Marcus Aurelius said, Rome is not the same. Rome has become corrupted, and now the corruption has gotten even deeper. So I'm not sure what you can do left in the next one, unless you go even deeper with one of the even crazier emperors. There are a bunch of really nuts, especially in the 3rd century. Dear God, Ooh. But it gets really crazy. Yeah. But
For me, I felt like he was now in this legend status where they can only whisper his name without offending people, because of how he really like culture shocked everybody. But here's this guy who was a gladiator, who was a slave, and just brought this belief and hope, and took on the emperor.
Yeah, and my dad was a little like upset by the fact like, oh, the whole thing of like the first one, he was supposed to bring that prosperity, but
Yeah.
I was saying like, well, there is like the even though it's more historical fiction, there is that history part of like, oh, it went to shit soon afterwards. But on top of the fact, sometimes, and I've said this before, which is like kind of the reason why I respect certain endings when it comes to this topic. It's in our nature to destroy ourselves. That's the whole thing about humanity. No matter how much we prosper, no matter how good we get, no matter how great we can be, it is always in our nature to kill ourselves, to the point where at the end, eventually we will extinct ourselves, and it will all be our fault. And I think that's what they were kind of insinuating here, from at least from a movie point of view, not necessarily a historical point of view. It's just like, okay, cool. There was the promise of like, Maximus dying, and it'll bring a greater future, but that just doesn't happen. It's just,
I think it's
life sucks, my guy.
I think the message,
I thought it made sense.
I think you should make it more about, really lead into this point, is more about fighting for an ideal than about whether or not that ideal is actually realized. You know, so I mean, you just keep fighting for it. The fact that you keep fighting for it, that is the win.
And it made sense too, because like there's just there's just so much corruption in Rome. It's like he died, and then the next person's going to take over. Who cares what this person just said? It's just like he's dead now. It made sense why, like, he never it never happened. The ideal that he made clear before he died never happened.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so exactly, because I mean that part, the history part, is why it didn't bother me at all. Normally, that kind of thing does kind of bother me. Like that's my hurdle with Alien 3. Even though I respect it, I respect what he was trying to do, and I understand why this guy loves it so much. I do, but at the same time, that's my hurdle. Of like, you ruined the ending of Aliens, and it was so perfect, but. I mean, I get it. So, I mean,
but I like that depressing nihilistic bullshit.
Yeah. And I normally do. I normally love nihilism. So, I mean, it's just that it's like weird because I love nihilism, and at the same time, I do love my happy endings as well. So, I mean, sometimes, and I had one there. So
it's, there inside of you, there are two wolves.
Exactly. There are two wolves, Exactly.
But yeah, go watch this, guys. It's great. I don't know if we have anything more to say. But...
I was gonna say, I think we said all there was.
It's a solid blockbuster.
Entertained.
Even as just an action film, I think.
Go see it in the theaters. It's worth watching.
Yeah, like definitely.
Exactly. I was entertained. Are you not entertained?
It just kind of sucks how it came out at around the same weekend as Wicked, which is most definitely the one that's taking the fucking Dolby theater at my theater, and I'm like, I wish I could have seen this in Dolby. It would have been so fucking cool. I can only imagine that the IMAX was amazing, guys. But
just saying, do you guys
right?
So you guys know, like I've kind of gone on my little rants about Regal's Monday mystery movies and how it's basically a gamble. Gladiator 2 was the mystery movie. I'm like, oh shit! I could have gone and seen this early.
I was gonna say, I'm sure that was the same for AMC's Screen Unseen event.
Yeah, I mean, but it's like
wow.
You either could have seen that, or you could have seen, I don't know, what's a bad movie that's come out. You could have seen Red One,
or hell, you know what was one of the mystery movies? Talk to me.
Yeah.
Well, just think, Devin, if come December, if you do end up going to a mystery Regal movie, you could end up seeing Mufasa.
Nah, I doubt it. I doubt Disney would do something like that.
Yeah. Hail Sonic 3. Hail. 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 Hail.
Goes on sale this Monday.
Hail. Hail.
Sonic 3, and we were talking about that. And Sonic, I think it's pretty much consensus among the cool kids that Sonic 3 and Nosferatu are most highly anticipated. Robert Eggers can do no wrong.
By the way, speaking of Sonic 3, we'll be getting a trailer Monday morning.
We did get that that really cool. I don't know if you guys got it, but I got it. Where it was like, hey, we're seeing. It was like all the characters being like, we're seeing Gladiator.
That was awesome.
Like,
that was awesome.
Talking, and then Jim Carrey like dressed up as Santa Claus.
That was
funny. That was good.
Yeah.
But
either way, our next.
It should be obvious that what our next review is going to be.
What is our next review going to be?
Wicked.
Oh yeah, Wicked.
Austin's reviewing that one, right?
Austin's reviewing that one.
So, and what else do we have the remainder for the year? There's Craven the
Hunter,
which I'll be hosting.
Nosferatu and Sonic 3, and others that I can't remember.
And then Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings is
the overly long title.
Yeah.
The War of Titties.
Maybe Cobra Kai season 6 part 2 eventually. I don't know. I still haven't watched it yet.
I still haven't watched it either. Believe it or not, I have not even started it. But either way, I guess we are
all done.
Yes, we are all done. And let me just, let me get the, let me just set the outro here. Talk amongst yourselves.
How about them Jets?
How about them Jets?
How about them Jets?
How about them Bills?
They're good, from what I've heard.
I can't find
How
it.
about them Phillies?
Ew, gross. Get the fuck out of here. Plus, it's not baseball season anymore, you fuck. They lost.
How the fuck was I supposed to know that? Do I look like I watch baseball?
Lost. They fucking lost.
All right.
New York, motherfucker.
I was just waiting for, like, it's just as soon as he said Philly, I was just waiting for it.
Right. Until next time, see you later, guys.
Bye.
Bye. Once again, we have brought light into the world. You're welcome, Rome.